Mozart didn't just die in this film. He was murdered by jealousy, genius, and one of the most haunted performances ever put on screen. These are 20 secrets about Amadeus hidden for decades. And the bonus? A wig so cursed, multiple actors refused to wear it. Number 20, the role that almost went to Mad Max.
Caro donne.
Well, I'm flattered.
A funny little tune, but it yielded some good things.
And now he has returned.
Booby trapped. Touch those tanks and...
Where? Crap. Where?
Tom Holtz wasn't supposed to be Mozart. Director Milos Forman had someone else in mind. Mel Gibson. Fresh off Mad Max and The Year of Living Dangerously, Gibson was the studio's golden boy, box office gold with leading man looks. The studio loved him. Forman was intrigued, but when Gibson read the script, something didn't sit right. He later said Mozart felt too vulnerable, too childish, too far from the heroes he played. The giggling, the tantrums, the weakness. It wasn't him, so he passed. The role opened up again, and that's when Tom Holtz walked in. He didn't audition like a classical musician. He laughed. That high-pitched, manic, unforgettable cackle that would become Mozart's signature. Forman stopped him mid-scene. "That's it," he said, that laugh. The studio wasn't convinced. They wanted star power, name recognition, someone who could sell tickets. But Forman refused to budge, because in that laugh, he heard something real. Not genius pretending to be broken, but broken pretending to be genius. And once the cameras rolled, no one questioned it again. Holtz became Mozart, and Gibson, he went on to become a different kind of mad. But somewhere in an alternate universe, Mad Max is conducting symphonies in a powdered wig. Number 19, F. Murray Abraham's Dark Descent.
The winner is F. Murray Abraham.
From now on, we are enemies. You and I.
F. Murray Abraham won an Oscar for playing Salieri, but the role nearly destroyed him. He didn't just act jealous, he lived it. For months, Abraham immersed himself so deeply into Salieri's bitterness and self-loathing that he couldn't separate the character from himself. He'd go home after shooting and sit in silence, replaying scenes in his head, sinking deeper into the darkness. His family noticed the change. Friends noticed. He started questioning his own talent, wondering if he, like Salieri, was destined to be mediocre, to be forgotten, to watch greater artists succeed while he faded. The envy wasn't scripted anymore. It was real, visceral, eating him alive. After filming Wrapped, Abraham admitted he fell into a depression that lasted weeks. He couldn't shake the feeling that he'd touched something poisonous, something that couldn't be washed away. Salieri's confession, his rage at God, his bitter acceptance of mediocrity, it wasn't just acting. It was excavation, digging into his own fears and insecurities. And what he found down there scared him. Years later, he said the role changed him permanently, not because it made him famous or won him awards, because it made him understand what it feels like to hate your own gifts. And that kind of honesty, it doesn't wash off easily. Some roles you play, others, they play you. Number 18, the wig that no one wanted.
Sir, yes, the honor is mine. Absolutely.
And here is our illustrious...
Mozart's iconic white wig wasn't just a costume piece. It was a nightmare. The wig weighed over 2 pounds, was made from real human hair, and had to be powdered daily with a substance that irritated the scalp and made breathing difficult. Tom Holtz hated it. He complained constantly, begged for a lighter version, pleaded for mercy. It gave him headaches, made him sweat uncontrollably under the lights. And by the end of long shooting days, his scalp would break out in painful rashes. But the worst part, the smell. Because it was authentic to the 1700s, the wig wasn't washed, ever. It absorbed sweat, powder, and stage makeup, creating a scent so foul that other actors would physically step back during close-ups. Some held their breath. Forman refused to replace it. He wanted authenticity, period accuracy, suffering if necessary. So, Holtz suffered. Between takes, he'd rip the wig off and douse his head in cold water, gasping for air like a drowning man. Crew members joked that the wig had its own personality, its own malevolent spirit, but Hulce didn't laugh. He later said, wearing that wig every day felt like being slowly suffocated by history itself. And in a film about a man who died young, tragically, unfairly, maybe that was exactly the point. Sometimes, authenticity requires sacrifice. Number 17. The real operas with untrained singers. Milos Forman didn't want to fake the opera scenes. He wanted them real, fully staged, fully performed, in period-accurate theaters with live orchestras. The problem? Most of the actors had zero opera training. Tom Hulce couldn't sing opera. Neither could many of the background performers cast for their faces, not their voices. But Forman didn't care. He hired opera professionals to coach them, sometimes for just days before shooting. The Marriage of Figaro, Don Giovanni, The Magic Flute, all performed live on camera with full orchestration. No playback, no safety net, no second chances. If someone missed a note, they had to keep going. The result was beautiful chaos. Singers stumbled, timing fell apart, voices cracked under pressure. But Forman kept rolling, kept pushing, kept demanding more. He wanted the imperfection because Mozart's operas weren't perfect either. They were alive, messy, human, dangerous. One scene required over 40 takes because the orchestra and singers couldn't sync. Musicians were exhausted, singers were hoarse. But when they finally nailed it, the energy was electric, undeniable. You can see it on screen. The sweat, the fear, the adrenaline, the real risk of failure. Because unlike most movie musicals that polish everything to death, Amadeus didn't sanitize the music. It let it breathe, bleed, and live. Number 16. Forman's obsession with authenticity.
Are you sure you can't leave this and come back again?
Milos Forman was obsessed. He didn't just want the film to look like the 1700s. He wanted it to feel like it, smell like it, hurt like it. So he banned anything modern from the set. No plastic water bottles, no digital watches, no contemporary comforts. Crew members had to hide their phones or leave them in trailers. Even the food served on set was prepared using 18th century recipes, and it was terrible. Cast members ate stale bread, drank watered-down wine, choked down period-accurate meals, and complained constantly about the taste. But Forman didn't budge. He said, if the actors felt uncomfortable, good. Mozart was uncomfortable. Salieri was uncomfortable. Everyone in that era lived in constant discomfort. The costumes weren't just beautiful, they were restrictive, punishing. Corsets that made breathing hard, shoes that pinched and blistered, wigs that suffocated, fabrics that trapped heat. And Forman watched it all with quiet satisfaction, pleased with their suffering, because he believed if the actors suffered even a little, it would show on their faces, in their eyes, in every movement. And he was right. When you watch Amadeus, you're not seeing Hollywood glamour or sanitized period drama. You're seeing people trapped in their own skin, choking on their own ambition, suffering beautifully. And that realism, that commitment to discomfort, it's what makes the film timeless. Number 15, the laugh that wasn't scripted.
You know all these gentlemen, I'm sure.
That laugh, you know the one. High-pitched, grating, impossible to forget. It defined Mozart in Amadeus, became his calling card, his signature. But it wasn't in the script, not even a stage direction. Tom Hulce invented it during auditions, a spontaneous burst of manic energy that caught everyone off guard, made them uncomfortable. Milos Forman loved it immediately. He told Hulce, do that in every scene, don't hold back, and he didn't. But the laugh became a problem, not for audiences who quoted it endlessly, but for the other actors who had to endure it. F. Murray Abraham later admitted the laugh drove him crazy, made him genuinely irritated. Between takes, Holtz would still be giggling, testing variations, driving everyone insane. Some crew members started wearing earplugs, sound mixers complained, but Foreman encouraged it, pushed for more, demanded Hulce go further. He wanted Mozart to be irritating, childish, impossible to ignore or forget. Because genius doesn't come wrapped in politeness. It comes loud, obnoxious, unapologetic, offensive. The laugh wasn't just a character choice, it was a weapon. And by the end of filming, everyone on set understood why Salieri hated Mozart so much. Because after hearing that laugh for months straight, day after day, they kinda hated him too. Method acting at its most annoying. Number 14. The Prague location wasn't an accident.
Why don't
Can we see the scene with the...
Amadeus wasn't filmed in Vienna, where most of Mozart's life unfolded. It was filmed in Prague, behind the Iron Curtain. Why? Because Prague still looked like the 1700s. Foreman scouted locations across Europe and realized Vienna had been bombed during World War II, rebuilt with modern architecture, and lost its historical soul. Streets were paved, buildings were contemporary, the magic was gone. But Prague, tucked behind the Iron Curtain in communist Czechoslovakia, had been frozen in time. The cobblestone streets, the Baroque theaters, the palaces, they were untouched, preserved, perfect. But filming there came with complications. The communist government monitored everything. Permits were difficult to obtain. Crew members were followed by secret police. Paranoia was constant. Foreman himself had fled Czechoslovakia years earlier, after the Soviet invasion, and returning felt dangerous, personal, haunted by ghosts. But he pushed through the fear. He filmed in the Estates Theater, the same venue where Mozart conducted Don Giovanni in 1787. The same stage, the same walls, the same acoustics that Mozart heard. It wasn't a set, it wasn't a recreation, it was a shrine, a time machine. And when Foreman called action in that theater, standing where Mozart once stood, it wasn't just a movie anymore. It was a resurrection, a summoning of spirits. The past came alive. Number 13. The death scene that broke everyone.
Bee! Muffin! Muffin!
Mozart's death scene is one of the most haunting in cinema history, but it wasn't acting. It was endurance, physical and emotional torture. Tom Holtz spent hours in that bed, shivering, sweating, deteriorating under the brutal lights. The makeup team made him look skeletal, hollowed out, barely alive. Sunken eyes, pale skin, the look of death. And Foreman kept pushing, demanding more takes. Take after take, Hulce had to summon that final burst of manic creativity, dictating the requiem while dying, genius in death, fighting for control. By the end of the shooting day, Hulce was physically exhausted, emotionally wrecked, barely able to speak or stand. His voice was hoarse, his body ached. The crew stood in silence, watching him collapse into the character's final breath, unable to look away. When Foreman finally called cut, no one moved. They just stared at what they'd witnessed. Hulce later said he couldn't remember the last hour of shooting. He'd gone somewhere else entirely, a place where Mozart's madness and his own exhaustion merged into something real and terrifying. And that's what you see on screen. Not a performance, not technique. A breaking point, a genuine human collapse. Because sometimes the best acting isn't about pretending or showing off skill. It's about letting go completely and trusting the fall. Number 12. Salieri's confession was rewritten on set.
Offer me your confession. I can offer you God's forgiveness.
When you have to do it with your own hands.
The opening scene, Salieri's confession to the priest, wasn't in the original script, not like that. The play by Peter Schaffer had a different structure, a different tone, a different entry point, but Foreman wanted to frame the entire film as a mystery, a confession, a dying man's final accusation against God. So he sat down with Schaffer just days before shooting and rewrote the opening from scratch. New pages, new structure, new everything. F. Murray Abraham had no time to prepare, no weeks of rehearsal. He showed up, read the new pages, and had to deliver one of the most complex monologues in film history with almost no preparation. And somehow, impossibly, he nailed it. The desperation, the bitterness, the self-awareness, the rage, it all came through. Abraham later said he channeled his own fears of being forgotten, of never being good enough, of dying unknown. Because Salieri's confession isn't really about Mozart, it's about every artist who's ever felt mediocre, every person who's looked in the mirror and seen failure. And Abraham understood that intimately, personally. The scene was shot in one long take, no cuts, no safety net, no room for error. Just a man unraveling in real time. And when he screamed about mediocrities everywhere, he meant it. Every word, every syllable was pain. Number 11. The studio wanted a happy ending.
He killed Mozart and kept me alive to torture. 32 years of torture.
After the first cut, the studio panicked. They thought the ending was too dark, too depressing, too hopeless. Mozart dies penniless, forgotten, thrown into a mass grave like garbage while Salieri lives on in bitter mediocrity, drowning in his own insignificance. Executives wanted changes, demanded rewrites. Maybe Mozart survives. Maybe Salieri finds redemption. Maybe there's a final reconciliation, a moment of hope, something uplifting. Foreman refused point blank. He said the whole point of Amadeus was that life isn't fair, that genius doesn't guarantee happiness, that mediocrity doesn't equal failure. The tragedy is the truth, but the studio pushed harder, threatened to recut the film themselves, to take control away. But Foreman had final cut written into his contract, so he stood his ground, didn't compromise. And when the film premiered to audiences worldwide, they didn't want a happy ending either. They wanted the pain, the injustice, the raw honesty of watching a God-given talent waste away while a lesser man watches, helpless and hateful. Because Amadeus isn't a feel-good story, it's a funeral. It's watching beauty die. And that's exactly why it works, why it endures. Happy endings are easy, truth is hard. And Foreman chose truth over everything else, no matter the cost. Number 10. The costume budget that broke records.
I want you to come back to Salzburg with me, my son.
Papa, the rule is you can only give a penalty that can be performed in the room.
For her lessons, sir.
Maestro? Well?
The costume department went insane. Over 900 costumes were created by hand for Amadeus, each one historically accurate down to the stitching. Theodor Piszczek, the costume designer, didn't cut corners. He researched fabrics, studied paintings, visited museums across Europe. Every button, every lace pattern, every piece of jewelry had to match the 1700s perfectly. The budget ballooned out of control. Studios panicked, but Foreman backed him completely. Piszczek's team worked 18-hour days, sewing, dyeing fabrics using period techniques, distressing materials to look worn and lived in. Some costumes took weeks to complete for just one scene. The masquerade ball alone required over 200 costumes, each unique, each detailed, and the insanity paid off. Piszczek won the Oscar for Best Costume Design, beating out films with triple the budget. But the real victory wasn't the award. It was watching actors transform the moment they put on those clothes. Tom Holtze said the costumes made him feel like Mozart, like he'd traveled back in time. F. Murray Abraham said Salieri's clothes felt like armor, like a prison, because in Amadeus, costumes weren't just decoration. They were character, they were psychology, they were time machines stitched from silk and spite, and every thread told a story that words couldn't capture. Number 9. The child prodigy. who wasn't
Mozart.
I can't think of a time when...
Young Mozart appears in flashback scenes, a child prodigy performing for royalty. But the kid playing him couldn't play piano, not a single note. He was cast purely for his look, his face, his ability to mime convincingly. The production hired a professional child pianist to record the performances separately, then taught the actor to move his hands in sync. It took weeks of rehearsal. The boy practiced for hours daily, watching videos, matching finger movements to music he couldn't create. On set, they filmed his hands in extreme close-up, shot after shot, until the illusion was perfect. But there was a problem. During the scene where young Mozart plays blindfolded for the Emperor, the child kept peeking, take after take. He'd lift the blindfold slightly to see the keys, ruining the shot. Foreman grew frustrated. Finally, they glued the blindfold down. The kid panicked, couldn't see anything, started crying. They had to stop filming, calm him down, convince him to trust the process. When they finally got the shot, it looked effortless, magical. A child genius performing impossible music without sight. But behind that magic was fear, tears, and a blindfold that wouldn't come off. Sometimes movie magic requires a little cruelty, and nobody watching ever knew the difference. Number 8. The Emperor's historically accurate stupidity.
No, this is nonsense. Let me see the scene with the music. But sire, oblige.
May I play it when he comes in?
You do me too much honor, sire.
Bring in Herr Mozart, please. But
Jeffrey Jones played Emperor Joseph II, and he nailed the role by playing him exactly as history recorded, pompous, out of touch, musically ignorant. The Emperor's most famous line in the film, "Too many notes," wasn't invented for drama. He actually said that to Mozart. Historical records confirm it. When Mozart premiered an opera for him, Joseph complained it had too many notes, that it was too complicated. Mozart allegedly replied, "Which notes would you have me remove, Your Majesty?" That exchange made it into the film almost word for word. Jones studied the real emperor obsessively, read his letters, his diaries, his documented conversations. And what he found was a man who fancied himself cultured but understood nothing, a ruler surrounded by yes men, living in a bubble of privilege and ignorance. Jones played him with perfect oblivious confidence, never winking at the camera, never acknowledging the stupidity. He delivered every line like the emperor truly, believed he was brilliant. And that's what made it devastating, because the tragedy of Amadeus isn't just that Mozart died young, it's that he died trying to please people too stupid to understand what they were hearing. The emperor wasn't evil, he was worse. He was mediocre. And mediocrity, when it holds power, kills genius slowly without ever meaning to. Number 7. The recording sessions that drove everyone mad.
Program. That means that there are many.
The music in Amadeus wasn't pulled from archives. It was recorded specifically for the film by the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, conducted by Neville Marriner. And the sessions were torture. Marriner demanded perfection, take after take, note after note. Musicians played the same passages hundreds of times until their fingers bled, until their embouchures gave out, until they couldn't hear the music anymore. The recording took months. Orchestra members complained constantly. Some quit. Others powered through out of respect for Mozart's compositions. But Marriner never compromised, never accepted good enough. He knew this soundtrack would define the film, would introduce Mozart to millions who'd never heard classical music. So every note had to be perfect. The pressure was enormous. During the Requiem recording, several musicians broke down crying from exhaustion and emotional intensity. The music itself, raw and powerful, combined with the brutal schedule, broke something open in them, and you can hear it in the final soundtrack. There's a desperation, an urgency, a barely controlled chaos that mirrors Mozart's own life. It's not polished to death like most classical recordings. It bleeds, it breathes, it lives. And that's because the musicians weren't just playing notes, they were surviving them, one measure at a time. Number 6.
First, I must get the death mass, and then I must achieve his death.
Salieri's suicide attempt was real. The film opens with Salieri attempting suicide, slashing his throat, screaming his confession. That scene was based on historical fact, sort of. The real Salieri did attempt suicide in his final years, though historians debate whether he actually accused himself of murdering Mozart, or if that was delirium, guilt, or madness speaking. But the confession, that was Peter Schaffer's invention, a dramatic device. However, F. Murray Abraham researched Salieri's final days obsessively. He read medical reports, letters from Salieri's doctors, accounts from people who visited him in the asylum, and what he found was a man destroyed by his own mediocrity, haunted by the ghost of a genius he could never match. Whether Salieri actually killed Mozart doesn't matter to the story. What matters is he believed he did, or wanted to believe it, because murder was easier to accept than irrelevance. Abraham channeled that psychological torture into his performance. The suicide scene wasn't played for shock value. It was played as release, as confession, as a man finally telling the truth after decades of silence. And when Abraham screamed Mozart's name from that wheelchair, covered in blood, it wasn't acting, it was exorcism. He was purging every insecurity, every jealous thought, every moment of self-hatred he'd ever felt. One take, one scream, decades of pain. Number 5. The mass grave scene. Nobody wanted to film. Mozart's burial in a mass grave is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in cinema, but filming it was worse. The production built an actual mass grave outside Prague, dug deep into frozen ground. It was winter, freezing cold. The extras playing gravediggers were miserable. They had to shovel real dirt, handle a real coffin, work in sub-zero temperatures for hours. Tom Holtz, playing Mozart's corpse, was wrapped in a shroud and placed in the coffin. Then the extras threw lime powder and dirt on him, burying him alive for the camera. Hulci said he felt claustrophobic, couldn't breathe properly, panicked slightly with each take. The coffin wasn't sealed, but the weight of the dirt made it feel real, made it feel like death. Constanze, played by Elizabeth Berridge, had to watch from a distance, sobbing, and her tears weren't all acting. The cold, the bleakness, the actual burial happening in front of her, it broke something loose. Foreman shot the scene in silence. No music, just wind, dirt, and the sound of a wooden box hitting frozen earth. When they wrapped, nobody spoke. They just walked away from that grave, leaving Mozart behind. And the next day, when they returned to shoot other scenes, that hole was still there, empty now, but haunted. A reminder of where genius ends. Number 4. The film that almost bankrupted everyone.
Oh, everybody's here, and we've got guests. Bravo. Well,
Amadeus had a modest budget by Hollywood standards, around $11 million. But filming in communist Czechoslovakia meant constant problems. Currency exchange issues, government red tape, equipment delays, permits that appeared and disappeared randomly. The production hemorrhaged money daily, costs spiraled. The studio threatened to shut down production multiple times. Foreman had to beg, plead, promise miracles. Cast and crew went weeks without paychecks, working on faith. Tom Holtz later joked they were paid in experience and hypothetical back-end deals. Some crew members quit. Others stayed because they believed in the film, because they knew they were making something special. The Czech government, paranoid and controlling, made everything harder. They restricted filming locations, demanded script changes, censored certain scenes. Foreman fought them constantly, often filming forbidden shots secretly, hiding footage. When the production finally wrapped, everyone was exhausted, broke, and uncertain if the film would even see release. The studio was furious about the budget overruns. Early screenings got mixed reactions. Some executives wanted to dump it quietly. But then something happened. Test audiences went crazy. Word of mouth exploded. And suddenly, the film nobody believed in became the film everyone wanted to see. Amadeus wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. Grossing. Over $90 million and winning 8 Academy Awards. The gamble paid off. Barely. Number 3. The Oscar sweep nobody expected.
Milos Forman for Amadeus.
And the winner for this is Amadeus.
Awards season 1985. Amadeus was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. Impressive, but not necessarily dominant. The competition was fierce. A Passage to India, The Killing Fields, Places in the Heart, all strong contenders. But then, the night began, and Amadeus started winning. Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, Best Makeup. Each win built momentum. The audience started realizing this wasn't just another nominee. This was a sweep. When F. Murray Abraham won Best Actor, he was genuinely shocked, stammering through his speech. When Milos Forman won Best Director, he looked like he might cry. And when Amadeus won Best Picture, the final award of the night, the Shrine Auditorium erupted. 8 Oscars total. Only 3 films in history had won more. Tom Holtze, nominated for Best Actor, lost to Abraham. And instead of bitterness, he applauded harder than anyone. Because Amadeus wasn't about ego. It was about the work, the craft, the music. Even the losers won that night because they'd been part of something bigger than themselves. The sweep wasn't expected, wasn't predicted. Critics thought the film was too weird, too European, too niche. But audiences and Academy voters saw what others missed. A masterpiece hiding in period wigs and powdered faces. And 40 years later, that night still shines. Number 2. Tom Holtze never played Mozart again. After Amadeus, Tom Holtze disappeared. Not from acting entirely, but from leading roles, from the spotlight. He'd given the performance of his life, been nominated for an Oscar, become synonymous with Mozart, but he walked away. Why? Because he knew he'd never top it. Holtze later admitted that playing Mozart broke something in him, not tragically, but completely. He'd touched genius, channeled it, lived inside it for months, and afterward, everything else felt hollow. He couldn't imagine another role that would demand that much, hurt that much, matter that much. So he shifted focus. Voice acting, producing, Broadway work. He voiced Quasimodo in Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, produced several successful plays. But he never led another film, never tried to recapture Mozart's lightning. Friends said he made peace with it early. One perfect role was enough. Better to stop at perfection than chase it forever and fail. Salieri spent his life jealous of Mozart's genius. But Holtze understood something Salieri never did. Sometimes the gift isn't having genius. It's recognizing when you've touched it, holding it briefly, and letting it go without bitterness. Tom Holtze played a man who died too young. Then he walked away while he was still alive. And maybe that's the smartest thing any actor has ever done. Number 1, The Requiem That Killed Mozart, twice.
Where did I stop?
Tengo di ricordare. Statuenza in parte
So,
dextra.
now, confutatus maledictus. Descending scale in 8th notes, and then back to the ostinato again, and that's it. Do you have it?
Go too fast.
Do you have it?
Go too fast. One moment, please.
The Requiem haunts Amadeus, Mozart's final composition left unfinished, at his death. In the film, Salieri visits dying Mozart and transcribes the Requiem as Mozart dictates, note by note, stealing the last moments of genius. That scene, lasting over 10 minutes, is pure tension. No cuts, no tricks, just 2 actors and the music between them. But here's the secret, the scene almost killed the film. During editing, some executives wanted it cut entirely. Too long, too slow, too inside baseball for general audiences. Foreman refused absolutely. He said if they cut the Requiem, they killed the entire film's soul. This wasn't just Mozart dying. This was genius transferring from one man to another. The ultimate theft, the final betrayal. Abraham and Hulce filmed it in one brutal 14-hour day. Both were exhausted, emotionally destroyed. Hulce could barely whisper by the end. Abraham's hands shook from writing so long, but they got it. Every note, every moment, every heartbeat. And when audiences saw it, they sat in complete silence, mesmerized, destroyed. Because that scene isn't about music theory. It's about mortality, about legacy, about the desperate human need to matter before we disappear. The Requiem killed Mozart in real life. In the film, it killed him again. And 40 years later, it still kills us every time we watch. Amadeus wasn't just a film about genius and jealousy. It was both, stitched together with powdered wigs and painful truths. If this symphony of madness hit you right, drop a like, subscribe, and tell us what scene still haunts you. Thanks for watching, and remember, mediocrity is everywhere, but so is magic.